Can I just go to the issues, Mr Skidmore, that I touched on last night? I'm sorry that I didn't articulate the questions as well as I ought to have. Late last year, Air Services conceded in Senate hearings that it had conducted land and hold short operations at Melbourne Airport outside the runway nomination wind limits published in the Australian Aeronautical Information publication for a period of up to 2 years. In doing so, I'm advised by both air traffic controllers and pilots that Air Services conduct increased the risk of two aircraft approaching on intersecting runways, both rejecting their approaches due to unstable wind and or turbulence conditions, and despite the best efforts of both pilots and air traffic controllers, subsequently colliding over or near the runway intersection in what would almost certainly be a mass fatality event. They're the concerns that have been put to me by those in the industry. Air Services further considered that it attempted to obtain permission to conduct such operations from CASA via submission of a safety case, but that the safety case had been rejected by CASA pending the provision of further information by Air Services. By Air Services' admission, this further information was not provided to CASA. I note at this point CASA could then have reasonably assumed that Air Services would continue to conduct land and hold short operations within the approved risk-modelled aeronautical information publication limits. Air Services advised at estimates late last year that it was conducting a review into how it came to conduct land and hold short operations in the manner that CASA had declined to provide approval for. It also advised that it had informed CASA of its conduct and would also provide an explanation to the committee for its behaviour. Now, my understanding is it's been 7 months since the initial complaint was made, and Air Services has still not provided any explanation for its behaviour to this committee. I live in hope that it will do so this morning. Irrespective of why Air Services behaved in the way it did, by its own admission, it compromised the safety of the public, aircraft crews and the national airspace system for 2 years. I'm advised that due to the density of traffic in the Melbourne area and the time elapsed, that thousands of people were likely exposed to this unmitigated risk. What explanation, if any, has Air Services provided to CASA regarding its conduct? And I'm happy for you to take it on notice. These are issues that I'm very happy to get a considered response from you.
Mark Skidmore, Director of Aviation Safety. Thank you, Senator. In regards to the information provided, I don't have that immediately to hand. My Executive Manager, Aerospace and Aerodrome Division, Mr Peter Cromley, might have that. I would say that in regards to the activities undertaken by Air Services, we do audit and surveil the activities of Air Services and look forward to the information from them to ensure the safety of our airspace. So I would pass to my Executive Manager to see if he has any further information regarding the LASO activities. Otherwise, we will take it on notice and provide you with a separate brief.
I'm happy to do that. This is not. These are genuine concerns, I believe, that have been put to me. And if I can just continue on, just because of time constraints, has CASA in the past cancelled, suspended, or varied air operator certificates for operators who have ignored CASA requirements?
You're talking about air operator certificates specifically in regards to Australian operations? I'd have to ask my Executive Manager of
Sure,
operations.
and I'm happy for that to be taken on notice. I just want to put these on the record and get a considered response. And as I indicated to you before estimates, I will seek to have a meeting with you about this because of the concerns that have been expressed to me. Has CASA in the past cancelled, suspended or varied the licences of pilots who have ignored CASA requirements? I think the answer is yes. But if you could take that on notice about the extent of that.
Certainly, Senator.
Is or has CASA taken action to cancel, suspend or otherwise vary Air Services operating certificates as a result of it ignoring, that is, Air Services, CASA's requirements regarding the conduct of land and hold short operations? And the question that's been put to me by air traffic controllers and pilots is, if not, why not? If you could take that on notice.
Certainly.
Is or has CASA taken action to cancel, suspend or otherwise vary licences of air traffic controllers and their managers who knew or reasonably ought to have known that conducting land and hold short operations beyond the published wind limits have been rejected by CASA? And if not, why not? Again, if it be taken on notice. If CASA has taken no action, what message should other CASA-approved operators, CASA licence holders, our aviation industry and the broader international community understand about the robustness of the regulatory environment? What I've been told this morning is that if these matters aren't investigated properly, why would we bother to go to the regulator? That's not a criticism of CASA, it's just that the way that the ATSB and Air Services dealt with it, that's the feeling that they feel like giving up, and which really worries me if there's that culture. My other question to you is, given the combination of the rejection of its land and hold short safety case by its regulator was not seen by Air Services in Melbourne as an impediment to its conduct, and that the Air Service Cirrus Report number 0125061 in late 2003 of a breakdown in coordination in the very busy Melbourne airspace, and I think Mr Cromarty would discuss that briefly last night, omitted to mention that the breakdown was not detected for fully 3 hours. I repeat that, 3 hours. The first that CASA and that the ATSB knew about the extraordinary long time of the breakdown of coordination was via the industry confidential safety reporting system of the REPCON number AR20130090 that also suggests that losses of separation assurance may have occurred as a consequence of that breakdown of coordination between Essendon Tower, Melbourne Terminal Area Control and Melbourne Tower. What's been put to me is that the failure to report a known loss of separation is an offence. Is that the case?
They have reported, though, Senator, in regards to the REPCON. So I applaud Air Services for having having a reporting system that actually identified that.
But the REPCON occurred after the Cirrus was... My understanding is this: there was an initial report, the Cirrus, it wasn't investigated, there was frustration, and there was a confidential report by an air traffic controller or someone in the sector who said that this is quite serious, and it was escalated at that level. Could you at least look at the sequence of events as to what occurred?
Certainly, we can look at the sequence of events and provide you with information.
But that CASA was relying on Air Services assurances that nothing untoward has occurred. To what extent? And I ask that you look at these matters because of the concerns that have been expressed to me directly by people who are worried about raising this publicly before their careers. They say that 3-hour period was very problematic. ATSB relied on what is it? Web tracker. What's that called? It's the web track, which is something that a journalist told me this morning that they rely on to track the PM's plane. It is not exactly a forensic tool. It's not the same as the radar tape. So whether CASA would be looking at the radar tapes as to whether the information provided to CASA was from Air Services was robust and adequate enough. So if you could take that on notice as well.
Certainly,
My final questions to Mr Boyd in relation to the issue of the specialist maintenance task. If I could ask him a question and then I'm done. Chair, where are you? How's that biscuit going? It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich.
Can I just say, Senator, in regards to the Air Services activities, we don't have people out at every tower or every station, so we do rely on the information provided from those operators who are there. We rely on having a good safety system in place, so that is what I'm trying to ensure, to have that information coming through from the system.
And the assertion that's been made, the allegation that's been made to me, and I'm asking for CASA to look into it as a result of, I think, people who are very concerned about air safety, is that the assurances of Air Services were either incomplete or in some way inadequate, and that there is concern amongst some air traffic controllers in respect of that. And what they are asking me to ask you is to dig a little deeper, because there seem to be real risks involved, and the safety system, there were failures in respect of that. And again, I think I can perhaps raise these matters with you directly at your office or
Certainly. Happy to have a separate briefing.
Sure. Mr Boyd,